Hey guys, today we're continuing talking about memory, and hopefully you have this sheet right here. My husband is being dumb right now. He's looking through the window, which is right in front of me, and acting a fool. So, you can't get much things done when you're at home. Anywho, so yesterday we talked about encoding and how we get information into our brain. And hopefully you remember to fill out your Google form little exit ticket about what we learned. That's how I'm going to be giving you guys feedback, and that's how I'll, be able to keep in track what we need to talk about in those office hours and of, where things are not sinking in or we're having confusion. So today we're getting into something still 3 boxes with memory, but more specifically it is storage. It's all about storage. So the first box yesterday was all about encoding, and then this is basically, if we were to break down the storage box, we would then break it down in here, and it's called the Elkinson-Shiffrin 3-stage processing model of memory. And so there's 3 ways, or 3 places, I guess you could say, we can store memory: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. So that's going to be in these next boxes: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. So you see that sensory memory breaks down 2 more times, and then long-term memory breaks down like a whole bunch. Okay. So sensory memory is basically we are being bombarded with lots of data all around us all the time. The things around you that you are currently seeing, smelling, hearing, maybe tasting, touching, and all of it is getting into our sensory memory, and it's a whole bunch of data. Obviously, not all of it is important. So there are things around you that are maybe you're hearing, but you're not listening to. Or maybe there are things that you are seeing, but you're not actively looking at it. And so all of our senses are collecting data all the time. And it holds information very, very, very briefly. It's a half a second for visual things, or 2 seconds, and it's cut off, but it's supposed to be for auditory, for things that you can hear. And I'm going to come back to the slide, but I want to break down those 2 types of sensory memories. So I'm going to move myself off to the side here. So underneath that sensory memory box, you see that we have 2 more boxes down here. That's what we're filling in: iconic memory and echoic memory. And Matthew's going to say hello real quick.
Hello, I'm going to show you something.
What is that? Are you building a Lego?
Yes, I can show.
Oh, it's that from Lego Movie? Yeah. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay. Hey, if you could get Daddy to bring me a water, that'd be really great.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2 specific types of senses that have their own memory. There's iconic, which obviously you can see this picture, it's your visual memory, and then echoic is your auditory memory. And if you remember from the previous slide, iconic memory is about, do you remember? It's about half a second. And then echoic memory is a little bit longer, it's about 2 seconds, give or take. Which means I could flash this in your vision. And this was actually an experiment done. I believe it was a box of, I think it was like 4x4, not 4x3, like this is, of letters. But they flashed it in people's vision for a 1/12 of a second. That's like no time. That's like so very fast. A 1/12 of a second. And then people immediately wrote down as many letters as they remember seeing. And the majority of people were spot on. They were like 85, 90% correct with what they saw, which is kind of incredible because of how quickly they did see it and process it. And it's stored in their memory for a second. But here's the thing. So iconic memory, your visual memory, only lasts about a half a second. So if they had flashed something very, very quickly, and then waited just a few seconds and say, okay, now write down all the things that you saw, your memory of what you saw basically is going to be guessing at that point. I mean, you're holding sensory memory in storage, storing it for almost next to nothing. I can't show you this video clip, but I am going to link it. It's what I think it's maybe 30 seconds long. It's really interesting of how great this chimp's sensory memory is, his iconic memory specifically. And you'll kind of see it. It's kind of amazing. I think it's better memory than we have as humans. But another sensory memory is echoic memory, and this is your auditory memory. And so have you ever maybe like been in the kitchen or something in your house and your parents say like, hey, while you're in there, do you mind grabbing me a napkin? And you say something like, wait, what did you just say? Wait, no, never mind, I got it. Like, it's almost like you like didn't hear it the first time, but then your brain kind of replays what they said and you kind of hear it almost like an echo in your mind. That's echoic memory. So if you had waited a few seconds and didn't ask what, like, if you didn't hear it again as an echo in the first, second or two after they said it, your brain will not be able to replay. Basically, they can replay. Your brain can say, like, what was just said 2 seconds ago, like behind you. Oh, you can say it. But like 10 seconds ago, I don't remember what they were talking about. But like that could happen in any classroom. People around you are constantly talking. And if I was to say, hey, really quick, what are they just talking about just now? You could probably replay the last 2 seconds of what they just said. But anything further than that is going to be guessing at that point. And so echoic memory is we are containing everything that we hear for about 2 seconds. And then if it's important, it'll go into short term. If it's not important, it gets thrown away. Same thing with iconic memory. Everything that we are seeing goes into our visual memory for about a half a second. If it's important and we pay attention to it, it'll go into our short-term memory. But if we're not paying attention to it, it's gone. It's gone almost immediately. And so those are two sensory memories. Iconic, like icon or eye, and echoic, like hearing an echo. So that's sensory memory. Going into short-term memory is like if you pay attention. If you pay attention to what you hear, if you pay attention to what you see, what you taste, what you smell, then it can go into short-term memory. So it's transferred with attention, with paying attention, with focus. And short-term memory is also called working memory. So the AP test really likes to use those two as synonyms a lot of the time. Short-term memory and working memory, they're the same. But short-term memory is limited, very, very limited. About 7 things, plus or minus 2. So the range is from 5 items to 9 items, but that number 7 is typically the number that's a lot on the AP exam. And brief, not right now, bud. Later, okay? At the end. But you have brief storage of this information if you don't rehearse it. Remember, rehearsing is basically studying. You have about it for 30 seconds, and then if you're not going to repeat it and rehearse it and practice it, it's gone. Of course, it says involved in conscious process of information, meaning like you typically do not put things from sensory memory into short-term memory unless you're paying attention, unless it's a conscious effort. Remember how we talked about effortful encoding and automatic encoding? Basically, to get into from sensory to short-term, you got to pay attention. And to keep it in short-term, to go into long-term, you got to pay attention. And so that's short-term memory. It's pretty simple. It's like 7 items. So they say like a phone number is a perfect example of the number of digits that you can have in short-term memory. And then long-term, I'm going backwards. Long-term memory is going to be in this last box right there. It's the title of a whole bunch of things. Long-term memory, to get things in long-term memory, obviously you need attention, rehearsal, studying. But some things get into long-term memory without you studying at all. It just automatically gets there. Like you hear a joke and then it's like there forever. You hear like a party fact or trivia. It's there forever. So long-term memory is unlimited. There's no stopping of the things that you can get into your brain. It feels like sometimes when you're studying, it feels like, man, I cannot put anything more in my head. Well, that's because you're putting it into short-term memory, and it's probably going to be gone when you wake up in the morning. But if you put things in long-term memory, there's no limit to that. Of course, that requires extra effort of getting it into long-term memory. So some storage is thought to be permanent, while some things go away with time. Think of, things that you learned in class years and years ago. It's like you really knew it for that test. You knew it all year long, but like a foreign language. But then after not practicing, it does fade away. Do you remember the movie Inside Out, the Pixar movie? They brought a lot of psychologists and people that deal, like psychologists that specialize in emotion and memory, and how they kind of display and show memory in that movie kind of is a little bit relevant of the people sucking up all the memories that aren't being used anymore, and they kind of gradually fade away. It's cartoony, but there is some science behind that. So there's long-term memory. Okay. So this guy. Now this is specifically with long-term memory now. This guy, what a handsome fellow he is. His name is Carl Lashley, and he did an experiment with mice, and he had I think it was something like 20 mice, and he taught them this maze. And they all knew the maze, and they all ran it with probably positive reinforcement learning. But then he did little brain surgery on all of these mice. And what he did is that he took a chunk out of each of these mice's cortexes, but a different part of the cortex. Remember, we have 4 lobes, 4 cortexes: your frontal, your parietal, your occipital, and your temporal. So he was taking different chunks out of 20 of these rats' brains. So what do you think he's trying to do? He was trying to find exactly where in their brain was the memory of this maze. Where was it? Was it in the frontal lobe? Was it in the parietal lobe, temporal lobe? And so he, put the rat back together and all the different rats, and they healed from their surgery, and they all ran the maze again. And every single mouse ran the maze. Some of them, took a little slower, or they bumped into walls a bit, but they all ran the maze, which kind of proves that memory isn't located in one particular spot. Your memories are everywhere. So it's not like you can bump your head and there goes calculus, or you bump your head somewhere else and there goes, chemistry. It's kind of everywhere. The ability to make new memories, remember, that's the hippocampus. But where memories are stored is kind of everywhere. So there's Carl Lashley, and there it is, rats learn the maze. Then he lesioned, remember that means to cut. He cut the cortex to find the part of the brain responsible for that memory. And he found out that memories don't reside in single specific spots. They're kind of everywhere because they all ran the maze again, which means it wasn't any one of those 20 spots that he lesioned. Okay. So this flow chart is this big thing down here. And we will get to that. Today is Tuesday, or at least I'm assigning this on Tuesday. We will get to this on Wednesday. So after the office hours. So right now for office hours, we're going to be going over encoding, storage, retrieval, the different types of encoding. And we're going to cover, and then we're going to review the Atkins-Shiffrin model up until long-term memory. And then types of long-term memories we'll talk about on Wednesday after my office hours. That's what I'll post after office hours. So up until office hours, it's basically all of this except for these boxes down here, which we'll get to on Wednesday. So I'm going to leave you guys a little exit ticket. Make sure you do that. Make sure that you mark this as done when you are completing it on Google Classroom, and have a good rest of your day. And enjoy your Tuesday. Oh, wait, hold on. Matthew did want to show something. Matthew, do you want to show Pikachu? Yeah. This is what we've been working on. I built a puzzle, but we also been working on this. Hurry up, bud. It is a Lego Pikachu. 825 pieces. Looks very nice. Give it a spin. Ooh, yeah. There we go. Very nice. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good day. If I can stop this, how do I stop this? Now I'm going to have to edit this whole.
Stop it?
There we go. It's finally working. Bye.